YouTube, and welcome to yet another tutorial. I'm Dub from La Creme Studio, and yes, today we're going to be talking on the kicks, our bass, and our 808s. Basically, we're going to be working with the low end, how to EQ, to compress, to make it heavy and wavy, to make it that punch, you know, to give it that punch. So let's just get into it. Yeah, today I'm working with this beat. Yeah, I'm just gonna play it so we can all listen. Alright, let's just go to the part where the kicks come in. Let's avoid. Alright. Yes, those are some good, heavy, and tight kicks. Good low end. So I'm going to be showing you how I achieved that. I'll show you step by step how I EQ'd my kicks with my 808s, how I achieved that. Okay, so let me start with the kick. All of this depends on your choice of instrument. You know, the choice of kick you use really matters here. You know, you have to choose wisely. There are a variety of kicks, but in trap music, your kicks are the kind of kicks you use really matter in the end product of your song. So here I'm using a BOOMIN kick 3. BOOMIN kick 3. I love this kick. So we're going to be working with that. And two, I have my 808s. I played this 808 from just a normal 808 from Victory 808s. I added some saturation and some distortion to it. I'll show you how I achieved that. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the kicks. All right, I'm a slow kick right away. All right, now this is the kick with all the effects and EQ and everything. So I'm just gonna get them off so you can listen to the kick without all of those. Yeah, that's the kick. Is quite it's quite noisy. You can get it. It's quite noisy. So this is what I do basically for the kick. I'm just gonna reset this. Yeah, when come on. I see the kick mostly lies around this area. It lies around this area. Yeah. So all of this is not needed. All of the high end is not needed. So the kick is down here. I'm just gonna do a low pass filter and I cut the highs. And now this is what I do. I really exaggerate it. I exaggerate it up to that extent. Then now I back off. I back off until the sound becomes normal. Yeah, I think it's normal around here. Now you can get the kick is a lot clean. It's a lot, yeah. it's much better. So yeah, and then I do a boost. What I put next, I put another EQ. What I used first was parametric EQ1. It's a default EQ on FL Studio, and now I use another default EQ, parametric EQ2, and yeah, you guessed it, I just pick a preset, and the name of this preset here is bass drum punch. Yeah, it basically punches up, like it boosts the low end at about 100, at about 100 hertz. It boosts it up at about 100 hertz, so you can now listen to the change. That's with it. Now without it, yeah, you can get a clear difference. Without it, now with it, yeah, it boosted up. And what I add next is a soft clipper, still default from FL Studio 20. And this is what I basically do. You can just copy my precepts. This is what I do. I put in a soft clipper. There's no rule in doing this. You know, just move it around until you get what you, at that point where it suits you, then you can stop. This what I thought was best for this kick. And yeah, if you don't have good earphones or monitor, you won't really get what we're doing, since we're working just with the low ends. So it's really quiet. So you can get the difference with the soft clipper. Now I'm just gonna put it on and off so you can tell. So it's a lot more friendly to the ear. And lastly, I used a compressor. This is not very necessary. A compressor is not very necessary, as in most modern day trap music, we no longer use compressors on kicks, because I think compressors kind of ruin the kicks. But in this particular case, I decided to use a compressor because I thought it was necessary to use a compressor here, just to cut some of to get rid of some of the loudness of the kick, and to make it sit well, to make it sit well in the mix. So I had to use an arrow compressor from Waves. Yeah, so there you go, that's it. And if you're guessing, I just had to select a preset which is called bouncy. Yeah, bouncy, and brought down the threshold to about negative 12.2, and I had this. Yeah, no doubt that kick now is a lot more contained. It's a lot more contained, and it is glued together. So now that's the kick, and now we've just been working on the kick. Now let's bring in the 808s to see what we get. Now let me show you how I worked on the 808s. Now you get, it's quite saturated, and it's beautiful. Saturated and beautiful. I will show you how I achieve this. Okay, first thing I did on my 808 was naturally, first thing I used my EQ. I'm just gonna put this on default. Yeah. Now the 808 still lies around here. It lies it lies around here, the low end. So I'm gonna cut out. I do a low pass filter again. I cut this out. Yeah, and that's much better. That's much better. And I really want to play this with my kicks. Yeah, that's much better. I really want my kicks to come in so that I can work with both of them together, so there will be no saturation. Yeah. All right, let's bring in the kicks. Yeah, I feel like the kicks are saturating with the 808s. And remember, we boosted the kicks at about 100 hertz. We boosted the kicks at about 100 hertz. So I'm just gonna take away 100 hertz from. I'm just gonna go to the 808s and take that away from 100 hertz. I take it off, and I'm using this amazing plugin from Waves. I cut since I boosted here at 100, so I'm cutting it off from this is the low frequency. I'm cutting it off from the 808s. Yeah, so you listen. Wow, wow, wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now the saturation, you can just copy my precepts. I basically just loaded it. I just loaded it and set this. I put it off. Then I cut the lows. I cut it. I cut it to 60. So there will be no saturation. Yeah. And I have that. Then I added a distortion plugin and Steve from Waves, Manny M distortion from Waves. Yeah, you guessed it. I loaded a preset. I had a preset on, which is cut through bass. Yeah, cut through bass, and I had that. That's so cool, so cool. And then I want to. I feel like the kicks and the 808s are fighting for space. You know, they're fighting, coming in at. So what I did was side chained. I use a compressor C1 from Waves. It's a side to side chain this, and I basically loaded it, and I had to select a preset, classic compression, and then side chained the kicks with the 808s. So every time, so this compressor says every time the kick comes, the 808 should back off. Every time the kick is coming, the 808 should back off. So there will be no clash, no saturation. They shouldn't fight for space. It makes the sound clean. All right, let's listen. Yeah, it's much better. Now that sounds good already. Yeah, so that's how I mix my kicks and my 808s together to give them the punch and the width and the depth and that beautiful modern day trap feeling. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial, and please don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment. Tell us how you feel about it. Thanks.